I want to talk Steelers because they face the Ravens. Now, Pittsburgh has just really dominated this series. You were never as big a fan of Russell Wilson as I was and many of the fans are. What do you now when you watch that? They didn't do anything in the first half. They feel very George Pickens dependent. Where are you on Russ right now? Do you see a pretty low ceiling here with this offense?
I mean, I think it's a specific kind of offense. I think they need the run game to be effective. I think they need the vertical game to be a factor because Russell Wilson still throws a very good deep ball. I don't know how they coach him, and I don't know what they ask him to do, but there's been a number of games this year where I've noticed that he immediately threw the check down and almost not even waiting to see the routes develop, which leads me to wonder if maybe that's the way they coach him. They say, hey, look, if you see a play that gains 8 yards, take it. Let's not worry about anything else. Take those 8 yards. Let's stay on schedule. Let's stay ahead of the sticks. Let's control the pace and tempo of the game. We've got a really good defense. Hey, we'll take a shot here and there. We have a back who's in Najee Harris, who's basically a grinder, not a big play back. So if we can stay ahead of the sticks, we can control the pace and tempo of games. I think that's the way they want to play on offense.
Okay, so Denver.
And I love that. That people see that as a bad thing. I tend to be a little bit more conservative in that regard. And I think that's the way to go when you do have a high level defense, when you do have a grinding running back. I'm a fan of that, right? Don't lose more games than you win. That's how a lot of these defensive led teams are. And, I think with the Pittsburgh Steelers, what goes well for them is they're more than capable of winning different ways in that regard, where I think if that's their foundation of their game plan, where it's like, hey, you know what, you do got that 8-yard check down, take it, which again, I've always been a fan of. I've been saying that's actually what the Ravens should do to a larger degree with Lamar Jackson, especially come time playoffs. Because they can't stay ahead of the sticks and they can't stay in rhythm, and that's why they keep getting all frazzled and messed up, and then before you know it, they're losing. So I think it's actually a high level approach to do that with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and it's knowing your team, it's knowing what you have offensively and defensively, and what it takes to win the game. And you still take your shots. You absolutely still take your shots. And if you need to take your shots, if you find yourself down by 14 or, whatever it may be, you still have an incredibly high level player in Russ and able to be able to do that. But I think you just don't want to fall in that trap where you're just kind of constantly forcing the ball down the field, and trying to just be this big play offense. I don't think that's who the Pittsburgh Steelers are. And I think, again, when you have a great defense that can just bully and wear down teams, then that's the play. The name of the game for these defensive-led teams is to minimize turnovers, right? Minimize mistakes, and just, again, take what the opposing defense gives you. Don't try to, impose your own will. You impose your will defensively. You don't have to impose your will offensively. And again, it's not to say that you're still not going to put up points. Because I think when people think if you are going to do some of these checkdowns like Greg Cosell is talking about, it's still there. The points are still there to be had. Not to mention, I think this also can be the tale of two halves as well, because we know you're always playing differently from the first half from the second half, and so if you want to be when you're a little bit more on script, forcing the ball down, not forcing, but just taking more shots down the field or trying to just stretch the field in general. I think there's so many different ways to approach it. You can either rely on that to be in the first half or rely on the second half. You can really script those plays out. I think the problem is when you try to script those plays and they're not there, they get forced. And that's what I felt like kind of happened in that first half against the Pittsburgh Steelers. We saw Russ take that deep shot. I think it was third down, on the first possession against the Eagles, and it felt out of place. It was clear that's what they wanted to do, and it wasn't there. And if it wasn't there, then why do it? That's kind of my problem when you do want to kind of force that. And I don't have the notes to that game right now. I put them away because it's, you know, in the past now. But I remember writing that, like, it felt forced, and it felt like they were playing from behind, and it was the opening drive, right? And so it just didn't feel like, hey, you know what, this is an opportunity, let's take it. It was like, no, we got to do this, let's do this. And it was like, you got to be a little bit more adaptable in that moment. And I think actually to a degree, them playing without Pickens is I think it's going to help them grow as a team. And I think it's going to help them kind of lock down a little bit more on the details, both offensively and defensively. And then when you get Pickens back, it's going to be a really welcome sight, which is, again, this is very similar to what happened with the Philadelphia Eagles when A.J. Brown was gone. That's how they really were able to rely on and lean on Saquon Barkley, Devontae. Their defense had to step up. There was just no question about it. They had to step up. The run defense for the Philadelphia Eagles had to step up. You really force other players to rise to the occasion. So this is going to be an exciting game. Obviously, Vegas thinks that the Ravens got this pretty easy, 6.5 points. That's a decent amount. A divisional game, rival, considering the Steelers are also in first place of that division. So I'm interested in how this unfolds. I don't think the Steelers have to win. It's funny. I did this video, a breakdown for the Ravens, talking about, does Lamar Jackson have to play great, or do the Ravens need to win? And I think actually for the Steelers, obviously you want to win. You win, you lock things up. I get that, but that's obvious, right? Obviously you need to win. You win the division. I get all that, but that's easy. I would actually rather see the Steelers play great and Russ play great. I'd rather see them put up points and look like a really high functioning offense and lose than see them kind of play kind of like another ugly, weirder, not high level game, but they still come out on top. I would prefer not to see that. I would rather see them lose and have them play high level football. That's where I'm at with the Steelers. Because I think that would even be more momentum building than anything. I trust Mike Tomlin, where if they lost a game like this, it wouldn't spiral. Like when they lost the Eagles and they asked Mike Tomlin, like, how do you make sure that this doesn't spiral? And he's like, it was a loss. Relax. And that's what it would be here. So not to mention, I don't know that I've been talking about this a lot. You know, we have so many of these divisional games now that are also potential playoff matchups. And that is where you start to get at this point where you're kind of like, you know, we don't want to show everything right now because there's a real chance we will face each other in the playoffs. Like, again, you still need to get the win, but I don't know if you're going that deep in the playbook to reveal everything. And so I don't know exactly how you even coach or game plan for games like that when you're thinking, hey man, like literally in less than a month we could be facing this team in the playoffs right now. Like that to me is always like a slippery slope and a tricky path to walk down to. And I'm not going to pretend like I know exactly the best way to approach it, but I am confident in the feeling of just wanting to see the Steelers play high level football more than I want to see them just come away with the win. But obviously, of course, you want to see them do both. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Pittsburgh Steelers? Any expectations for this matchup? Any things that you would like to see in this game outside of a win, of course? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.